Moscow, Soviet Union, 1978. The Kremlin. A press conference room that smelled of cigarette smoke and old wood. Heavy curtains blocking out the gray Moscow sky. Soviet officials sitting behind a long table. Journalists from state-controlled newspapers. Cameras from Soviet television. Everything carefully orchestrated. Everything approved by the government. Everything designed to make the Soviet Union look strong and America look weak. The topic was sports, specifically boxing. More specifically, the upcoming exhibition match between Soviet amateur champions and American professional boxers. The Soviets wanted to prove their system was superior, that their amateur fighters, trained by the state, fed by the state, coached by the state, were better than America's capitalist professionals who fought for money. Viktor Kuznetsov sat at the center of the table. Deputy Minister of Sport and Physical Culture, 60 years old, gray suit, severe face, voice like gravel. He had fought in World War II, had medals, had scars, had the kind of authority that came from surviving things that would kill most men. When he spoke, people listened. When he criticized, people trembled. A journalist asked about Muhammad Ali. Ali was 36 years old now, still heavyweight champion, had just beaten Leon Spinks to win his title back for the third time, was the most famous athlete in the world, more famous than any Soviet athlete, more recognizable than most Soviet politicians. His face was known on every continent, in every country, even in the Soviet Union where Western culture was supposedly banned. Kuznetsov's face tightened when he heard Ali's name. He leaned into the microphone, spoke in Russian. His words were translated for the few Western journalists allowed in the room. But even before the translation, you could hear the contempt in his voice. Muhammad Ali. You ask about Muhammad Ali. Let me tell you about Muhammad Ali. An inflated balloon. America has taken a man with some boxing skill and inflated him like a balloon, made him bigger than he really is, created a fake hero. Propaganda. That is all Ali is. American propaganda designed to make the world forget that America is failing, that capitalism is dying, that the Soviet system is superior. The room went quiet. Even the state-controlled journalists seemed surprised. Calling Ali a balloon was one thing, calling him fake was another. Calling him propaganda was openly starting a fight with America's most beloved athlete. Kuznetsov continued, Ali has never fought a real Soviet boxer. He has fought American boxers, British boxers, African boxers, but never a Soviet boxer. You want to know why? Because he knows he would lose. Because America knows their fake hero would be exposed. The balloon would pop. Another official joined in, Sergei Volkov, head of the Soviet Boxing Federation, younger than Kuznetsov, maybe 45. Just as certain. In the Soviet Union, we do not create balloons. We create real athletes, real champions, men who train for their country, not for money. Men who represent the people, not capitalism. If Ali fought our champions, the world would see the truth, that American boxing is circus, entertainment, not real sport. The press conference continued for another 30 minutes, but the damage was done. The quotes about Ali being a balloon, being fake, being propaganda, were exactly what the Soviet officials wanted. Sound bites that would spread, that would make America defensive, that would make Ali look weak. The story hit Western news within hours. Associated Press, Reuters, BBC, all carried the quotes. Soviet officials call Ali inflated balloon. Kremlin, Muhammad Ali is American propaganda. Soviets challenge Ali to prove he's real champion. The State Department in Washington was furious. The Cold War was at its peak. Every statement from the Soviets was analyzed. Every insult was a diplomatic incident. The idea that Soviet officials were calling America's greatest athlete fake propaganda was intolerable. But before the State Department could respond, before American officials could draft a statement, before diplomats could start negotiating, Muhammad Ali responded himself. He was in Los Angeles when he heard about the press conference, training, getting ready for his next fight. Someone showed him the newspaper, read him the quotes. Ali being a balloon, Ali being fake, Ali being afraid to fight Soviet boxers. He smiled. That famous Ali smile. The one that meant trouble. The one that meant he was about to do something nobody expected. They think I'm a balloon? They think I'm fake? They think I won't fight their champions? Okay, let's go to Moscow. Let's show them what this balloon can do. His team tried to stop him, his manager, his lawyers, his trainers. Ali, you can't just go to Moscow. The Soviets won't allow it. The State Department won't approve it. This is the Cold War. You don't just fly to the Soviet Union because someone called you a balloon. Ali wasn't listening. Get me on a plane to Moscow. I'm going to the Kremlin. I'm going to find these officials who think I'm fake, and I'm going to challenge them to put their best boxer in a ring with me, right there in Moscow, in front of Soviet people. Let's see if this balloon pops. The problem was getting into the Soviet Union. Americans couldn't just fly to Moscow in 1978. You needed visas, government approval. Both governments had to agree. The Soviets controlled who entered their country, and they certainly wouldn't let Muhammad Ali, symbol of American capitalism and individualism, just show up in Moscow to challenge their sports officials. But Ali found a way. He contacted Soviet journalists who had been at the press conference, sent them a message through intermediaries, through diplomats who worked behind the scenes. The message was simple. I'm coming to Moscow. If your officials meant what they said, they'll meet with me. If they were just talking, they'll hide. Either way, the world will know. The Soviet officials were trapped. If they refused to meet with Ali, they would look weak, like they were afraid, like their tough talk was just propaganda. But if they met with Ali, they would have to face him, would have to back up their words, would have to either arrange a fight or admit they were bluffing. 3 weeks later, Muhammad Ali landed in Moscow. The Soviet government had granted him a visa, not officially for boxing, officially as a cultural exchange visitor. But everyone knew why he was really there. He arrived at Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport on a cold October morning. Gray sky, light snow, Soviet security everywhere. Cameras from Soviet television waiting. This was news. American boxer comes to Moscow after being called fake. Wanted to show Ali being humble in the face of Soviet power. They were disappointed. Ali stepped off the plane wearing a heavy coat and a fur hat he'd bought just for the trip. He waved to the cameras, smiled, started shadowboxing right there on the tarmac. I'm here. Where are these officials who think I'm a balloon? Let's see if they can pop me. The Soviet handlers tried to rush him through the airport. Keep things quiet. Keep things controlled. Ali wasn't cooperating. He stopped to talk to everyone. Airport workers, security guards, journalists. You know me, Muhammad Ali, your officials say I'm fake. What do you think? Do I look fake? People didn't know how to respond. In the Soviet Union, you didn't publicly disagree with officials. You didn't laugh at government statements. But Ali was infectious. His energy, his humor, his absolute confidence. People smiled. Some laughed. A few even shadowboxed back. The next morning, Ali went to the Kremlin, the center of Soviet power, where Stalin had ruled, where Khrushchev had ruled, where Brezhnev now ruled. Americans didn't just walk into the Kremlin, but Ali had demanded a meeting with the sports officials who called him a balloon. And incredibly, they had agreed. Viktor Kuznetsov and Sergei Volkov met him in a conference room. The same severe faces from the press conference, the same contempt in their eyes. They sat on one side of a long table. Ali sat on the other, translators between them. No cameras. The Soviets didn't want this meeting filmed, didn't want the world to see what happened. But Ali had brought his own camera crew, had paid them out of his own pocket, had told them to film everything. The Soviets protested. Ali refused to proceed without cameras. They were at an impasse. Finally, Kuznetsov relented. Fine, cameras can stay. Let the world see how we handle American propaganda. Ali leaned forward. Propaganda? You're the ones who called me a balloon in front of the world. You're the ones who said I'm fake. So here I am, in Moscow, in your city, sitting in the Kremlin. Does a balloon fly from America to Moscow? Does a fake champion walk into the heart of the Soviet Union and challenge you to back up your words? Kuznetsov's face reddened. We stand by what we said. American boxing is circus. You are entertainer, not athlete. Our Soviet boxers are real champions. Then put one in the ring with me. Right now, today, tomorrow, this week. I'll fight your best amateur. I'll fight your Olympic champion. Hell, I'll fight 3 of them in one night. Put up or shut up. The room temperature seemed to drop. Soviet officials didn't get talked to like this, especially not in the Kremlin, especially not by Americans. Volkov spoke. You cannot fight our amateurs. They are not professional. They do not fight for money. It would violate their amateur status. So you call me fake, but you won't prove I'm fake? You say your boxers are better, but you won't let them fight me? That's convenient. Real convenient. It is not about convenience. It is about principle. Soviet athletes represent the people, not capitalism. Fine. Then I'll represent the people too. I won't take any money. This fight will be free. No purse, no payment. Just 2 men in a ring. Your champion against this balloon. Let's see who pops. Kuznetsov and Volkov looked at each other. This was not going according to plan. They had expected Ali to bluster and leave, or to be intimidated by Soviet authority, or to accept their refusal gracefully. They had not expected him to offer to fight for free, to remove every excuse, to trap them with their own logic. We will consider it, Kuznetsov said finally. Consider it? You've been calling me fake for 3 weeks. You've been telling the world that Soviet boxing is superior. Now I'm here, offering to prove you right or wrong. And you need to consider it? No. You give me an answer now, today, in front of these cameras. Will you put a Soviet boxer in the ring with me, or won't you? The silence stretched. Seconds became minutes. The officials conferred in whispered Russian. The camera kept rolling. Finally, Kuznetsov spoke. There will be no fight. Why not? Because you are professional. Our boxers are amateur. The rules do not allow it. The rules, right, so when you called me a balloon, when you said I was fake, when you said I was afraid to fight Soviet boxers, you knew the whole time that your rules wouldn't allow the fight anyway. You were just talking, just making propaganda. Sound familiar? Kuznetsov stood up. This meeting is over. Ali stood too. No, this meeting is just getting started. You want to know the difference between American propaganda and Soviet propaganda? American propaganda at least has to back up its claims. You can call me whatever you want in your state-controlled press. You can tell your people I'm a balloon. But I came here. I showed up. I offered to fight, and you hid behind rules. So who's the fake now? Volkov tried to end it. You have made your point. You can leave now. I'll leave when I'm ready. I flew 6,000 miles to be here, to answer your challenge. And you won't even put up one fighter, not one, out of the entire Soviet Union, with all your superior training and superior system, you can't find one boxer willing to step in a ring with this balloon? Then Ali did something extraordinary. He turned to the camera, spoke directly to it, in English, knowing it would be translated, knowing it would spread. People of the Soviet Union, your officials called me fake, called me a balloon, said American boxing is circus. But they won't prove it. They won't let their boxers fight me. They'll talk tough in press conferences, but when I show up, when I'm standing right here in the Kremlin, offering to fight anyone they choose, they hide. They make excuses. They blame rules. So you tell me, who's real? Who's fake? A man who flies across the world to accept a challenge, or men who issue challenges they never intended to honor? The Soviet officials were livid. Security was called. Ali was escorted out. Not arrested, not detained, just firmly moved toward the exit. But he'd said what he came to say, done what he came to do. The footage was smuggled out of the Soviet Union. Western networks ran it within days. The image of Muhammad Ali in the Kremlin, challenging Soviet officials to back up their words, became iconic. The Soviets tried to suppress it inside the USSR, but the story leaked anyway. People talked, whispered. The Americans, who the Soviets called a balloon, had walked into the Kremlin and made Soviet officials look like the propaganda machines they really were. Years later, after the Cold War ended, after the Soviet Union collapsed, Sergei Volkov gave an interview to a Russian sports magazine. He was asked about the day Muhammad Ali came to the Kremlin. "We underestimated him," Volkov admitted. "We thought calling him a balloon would make him defensive, would make America look weak." Instead, he got on a plane, flew to Moscow, walked into our building, challenged us to our faces. We had no good answer. Our rules really did prevent the fight, but Ali knew that. He knew we couldn't put our amateurs against him, and he used it to make us look foolish. That's when I realized Ali wasn't a balloon America inflated. Ali was the real thing, and we had just given him exactly what he wanted, a chance to prove it. The lesson was simple but profound. You can't deflate someone with words if they're willing to prove themselves with actions. You can call someone fake all you want, but if they show up, if they face you, if they challenge you to back up your words, then your words become empty. Propaganda loses to presence. Rhetoric loses to reality. Muhammad Ali wasn't a balloon. He was a champion who was willing to fly anywhere, face anyone, and accept any challenge. Even when the challenge came from the Kremlin, even when it meant walking into the heart of Soviet power, even when it meant standing in front of hostile officials and demanding they prove their claims. That's what separated Ali from everyone else. Not just his boxing, not just his speed or power or skill, but his absolute willingness to turn any attack into an opportunity, any insult into a platform, any challenge into a moment where he could show the world exactly who he was. The Soviets wanted to call him a balloon? Fine, he'd fly to Moscow and dare them to pop it. And when they couldn't, when they hid behind rules and regulations and excuses, everyone would see the truth. That the only inflation happening was in Soviet propaganda. That the only fake champions were the ones who talked tough but refused to fight. If this incredible story of Cold War confrontation and personal courage moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Share this with someone who needs to know that the best response to criticism is action. Comment about a time when you proved doubters wrong by showing up when they thought you wouldn't. And remember, you can't be called fake if you're willing to prove you're real.